Can Mass Effect be more than Commander Shepard? Part of what makes the Mass Effect series so special is Commander Shepard. Their story, their impact on the galaxy, and the relationships you form with your companions through Shepard. Shepard is the key and the glue of the original trilogy, and is truly something special that I don't know can ever be replicated. Not to mention the amazing acting of both Jennifer Hale and Mark Meer, and how much life they brought to those performances. So when it comes to the debate on whether Shepard should return or not, both sides have several arguments. But I think it's important to ask, can the Mass Effect franchise even move beyond Commander Shepard? Shepard is an icon in the gaming industry, and Commander Shepard is the first thing people think about when you think about what Mass Effect is. And maybe this is the problem. We still don't know if Shepard is returning for the next game, and even though the teaser trailer has what looks like Shepard's N7 helmet, it isn't concrete evidence of anything. BioWare has shown just enough to tease a possible Shepard return. But this tease has also sparked a major debate about whether or not people actually want Shepard to even return. And that also opens up a ton of questions surrounding that possibility. Did the endings of Mass Effect 3 give Shepard a proper ending? Did fans get closure? What happened to Shepard in the perfect Destroy ending? Would bringing Shepard back negate the player's end choices? What happens with companions and romances if you bring back Shepard? Should Shepard even come back? And most importantly, if Shepard doesn't return, can the fanbase let Shepard go? It's been 11 years since Mass Effect 3, and there is still so much love and desire for Shepard to return, not only from the fandom side, but from Jennifer Hale and Mark Meer as well. A lot of fans still don't feel like they got a proper send-off, or a proper passing of the torch, or any kind of real closure with their Shepard. 11 years later, and a lot of fans are still wanting that closure. To learn what happened to Shepard after the endings of Mass Effect 3, and to find out how their choices affected the galaxy. To have some finality, finally. And they feel like Mass Effect 5 is the opportunity for that. This next game is an opportunity to finally show the aftermath of our decisions from Mass Effect 3, and what we subjected Shepard to. I don't know if every ending being explored is a possibility, but the endings need to be expanded upon somehow. And even if they are expanded upon, can proper closure be given if Shepard isn't included? Will a new game have room for that, or will trying to give fans closure take away from the new protagonist if one is introduced? And if Liara and possibly Rex, or other returning companions from the original trilogy actually return, will they inevitably outshine any new companions? These are all things that I think about. Because if you look at the teasers and hints, it looks like we are getting a direct sequel to the original trilogy, and I just have absolutely no idea what that could look like, especially with so many unresolved issues people still have with their Shepard's fate and the ending of Mass Effect 3. How do you even follow that ending? And if you have a large part of the fandom feeling like they never got proper closure, while also having endings that were never explored, can BioWare successfully do that if Shepard doesn't return? In the majority of the endings, Shepard wouldn't even be around to see how their choices affected the galaxy. Should Shepard get to see that? And I don't want to speak for the entire fandom, because for some, Andromeda was a good successor to the original trilogy. But I think it's important to also just be realistic that this wasn't the case for the majority of Mass Effect fans. It wasn't a successful successor because it wasn't really a true successor. So while Mass Effect has moved away from Shepard and did try something new, it still wasn't a proper sequel that challenged the hard questions that were left after Mass Effect 3. So if the new game has a new protagonist and new companions, will the devs and fanbase give that new protagonist room to grow and shine? While Ryder did have their flaws and is deserving of criticism, I also think a lot of what people didn't like about Ryder is that they simply weren't Shepard. And Andromeda was absolutely shrouded in Shepard's memory, both from the trailers having Jennifer Hale voicing over as FemShep, trying to sort of pass the torch in a way, to then having a trailer with someone wearing an N7 armor set, only for it to be Ryder Sr. There is so much that's intrinsically linked to Shepard that it's hard to move away from those iconic symbols. The armor, the N7 symbol, being a Spectre, etc. Anytime they were referenced or shown in Andromeda, you immediately think of Shepard. And I'd also say the N7 symbol is intrinsic to Mass Effect as a whole, so can those two really be separated? Can we ever get a new successful N7 protagonist who wouldn't be compared to Shepard at every turn? Can we ever have a protagonist who is a Spectre, or one who will wear the iconic N7 armor ever again without it reminding us of Shepard? Personally, wearing the N7 armor as Ryder in Andromeda felt wrong to me, and I didn't wear it because it reminded me too much of my Shepard. Seeing Ryder do the Shepard shuffle also made me really miss Shepard. And I'm just speaking for myself, but there's so much nostalgia associated with so many iconic aspects of Mass Effect that tie directly in with Shepard that it's just really hard to imagine Mass Effect's branding aspects without it relating to Shepard. Even the helmet in the trailer, it sort of doesn't make sense for it to be Shepard's helmet, and yet it's an N7 helmet, so it's linked to Shepard. And why would BioWare put it in there if it wasn't for us to be reminded of Shepard? So already we're seeing some specific iconography related to Shepard, and we don't even know if they're returning. And maybe I'm part of the problem. I think while realistically I don't think Shepard is returning, there's part of me that desperately wants it. It's hard to let go. When I think of Mass Effect, I think about Shepard, and it's genuinely hard to imagine the series without them. Especially when I see Liara. Do I want to experience Mass Effect and Liara without Shepard? And I know that the series has tried to move beyond Shepard, but I wouldn't call Andromeda a successful successor or a true sequel to the original trilogy anyways. Andromeda wasn't set in any familiar locations or with any real familiarity in general, and was a major time skip to specifically avoid a direct sequel to the original trilogy's timeline. It was a sequel without being an actual sequel. And again, I say this as someone who really likes Andromeda, so I don't say this with any type of malice. It's just the truth of Andromeda. And honestly, I think part of Andromeda's failure in this regard is that it puts even more pressure on the next game to deliver. Andromeda trying to be a sequel, being so far removed from being a true sequel, means that the fans of the original trilogy never got an actual sequel, and being teased at one has made them want one even more. I think BioWare was scared to address Mass Effect 3's endings, and was scared to make a true sequel because of how complicated it would be, and how it would be received by the fan base. If there is no canon ending, some fans might be upset. If there is a canon ending, some fans might be upset. Fans will be upset if Shepard returns or doesn't return. Fans will be upset that their headcanons of 10 plus years don't come true, etc. There's a whole can of worms there. And the Mass Effect fandom has had some serious issues in the past with its behavior, as gamers unfortunately do. So yeah, on one hand, I understand some hesitation on BioWare's end to not address the endings, especially following all the original controversy of Mass Effect 3. But at this point, it's time. And I also think if Mass Effect wants longevity and to thrive, Shepard can't be its crutch. I don't think it's a secret that BioWare is in a very tight spot right now, where they absolutely need to deliver, and part of me really thinks that they could bring back Shepard based purely on this fact. They need a win. They need a big win. Shepard could be an easy way to guarantee the game sells. Maybe not that it is successful in its writing or concept, but bringing back Shepard would immediately bring in existing fans, even fans who hated Andromeda. Shepard would bring them back. And this is why I don't rule out Shepard's return. I think there's a ton of complications involved in bringing Shepard back, but I also genuinely think BioWare could be being influenced by EA right now in a way that could pressure them into bringing Shepard back because it's an easy financial win. That is pure speculation on my part with how we see a lot of overhead from parent companies handling their studios. Or maybe EA is finally giving BioWare the space to make their own decisions. Who knows? It's hard to know what's going on with BioWare right now with everything going on, so I don't want to speculate too much anyways. Either way, like I said, Shepard would be an easy way to garner fan excitement and ensure sales. It wouldn't guarantee it's a good game, but it would absolutely sell. And if this isn't the case, if Shepard is truly put to rest and is done, I think that puts more pressure on the game. The writing will have to go above and beyond for fans to accept a new protagonist, especially after Ryder. Fans will be extremely critical, and especially since this new protagonist would inevitably live in Shepard's shadow. They'd have to give them the room to grow and thrive without weighing on the nostalgia of Shepard and the original crew to move the game forward. We can't spend the entire game with a new protagonist and Liara reminiscing the entire game about their time with Shepard. It sounds appealing in theory, but personally I think I'd miss Shepard too much and wish I was just playing as them. And then I wouldn't give the new protagonist the proper chance if it was Shepard Nostalgia City the entire game. But it really is hard to imagine a new protagonist surrounded by the settings and companions we knew and grew to love. But a new protagonist needs to be able to stand on their own, whatever that means. What that would look like, I have no idea. I can't imagine a new N7 stepping forward or a new Spectre. I genuinely have no idea. And I honestly hope they don't rely on too many things we know. I hope they can balance bringing new concepts into the game while bringing back concepts from the original trilogy and Andromeda to make something new. Mass Effect does need to find a way back to its roots, while also growing and changing. I really can imagine Mass Effect as a very large franchise, and with that rumored live-action show, that could also open more avenues for expansion as well. And I've seen a lot of people say that they hope the rumored show is a retelling of the original trilogy, and personally, I sincerely hope not. I'd hate to see a Shepard canonized on screen in any form. They could tell a new story. Mass Effect has an extremely interesting and diverse political system, the exploration with aliens and the technology and history. It's fascinating. It feels like a real world because of how fleshed out it is. And like our own history, there is still so much that is unknown. There's 1,000,001 possibilities. And I think Mass Effect could easily branch out. But with that said, I do hope its formatting stays somewhat close to the original trilogy, and it doesn't turn just into another Dragon Age. The two games, while made by the same studio, are still fairly distinct in how they work. Mass Effect has Shepard and their story guiding you through all three games, and Dragon Age puts you into an established world with a new protagonist every game. They were distinctly different, and I hope they remain that way. And Mac Walters did say that BioWare did talk about making a new Mass Effect trilogy, but that it was something they'd already done, so they didn't want to do it again. But I'd take this with a heavy grain of salt. Obviously, he's not involved in the project anymore, but he absolutely would still be following an NDA and respecting the Mass Effect team's secrecy with what they're planning. So could we get another trilogy? I don't know. With the way development takes lately, it seems like these games are in development twice as long, at least 5 or 6 years lately minimum. And Mass Effect 5 has already been in development since March of 2019, almost 5 years of pre-production already. So if this game were to release in, say, 2026, that would be 8 years. And yes, the sequels to this game would have assets and a foundation already, so maybe they'd take 5 years each. That's still going on almost 18 years for a new trilogy. Would that be feasible in this economy where games are canceled all the time? I don't know if BioWare would invest in a new trilogy, or if they'd want to handle the culmination of all three games into another ending like Mass Effect 3. They've spoken about how hard it was, so I realistically don't know if they'd do it again. Anyways, a ton of questions here surrounding the next game, and just things I think about as N7 Day approaches. Hopefully we get some more concrete info on N7 Day, which is in 27 days. But what do you think? Do you think the fanbase is ready to let Shepard go? Do you see BioWare bringing Shepard back And what are you hoping to see for N7 Day? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.